Home Slices is Kier with Home Slice Adulting, coming to you live with my review for Love and Hip Hop Love and Hip Hop Miami Season 1 Episode 8, which is titled Real Talk. Now I'm coming to you today with some braid out realness. If any of you have noticed, I had braids with extensions in for the past few weeks, and I took them out yesterday, and the braid out was just so beautiful that I decided to keep it in for like a day before I wash it. So moving on. We'll talk about the events of what happened. I was pretty entertained by this episode. You know, Love and Hip Hop Miami is giving us everything that Love and Hip Hop New York is not. So let's first talk about the events that went on with Kiara. Is it Kiara or Kiara? I can never get it right. Either way it goes. She's at Chinese Nikki's house, you know, letting go of all of her problems and, you know, expressing all of her issues with Gunplay to, you know, her girlfriends or whatever. Now, initially, I was like, well, Chinese Kitty, the younger one, needs to stay out of grown folk business. But, you know, I don't know how old the girl is. But come to find out, it's better that Chinese Kitty be there for this whole situation. But anyway, but I find Chinese Kitty to be immature, particularly considering how she handled that situation with Shea Bucky Johnson on the last episode. Moving on, she talks about the video shoot that Gunplay is doing that she walked in on and all the events that happened. And she says, you know, I didn't break up with him, but I want to stick around to help him out so that he can, you know, get back on the right track. Now, Chinese Nikki is encouraging Kiara to leave him behind because it could be detrimental to Kiara to help Gunplay when, you know, the situation is not safe or healthy for her. Now, thing is, Kiara loves him and wants to help him, and I think that she would feel super guilty if she were to abandon him in his time of need. So I get, you know, both ends of the spectrum. You leave and help yourself, or you stay and help him with the chance that you might be hurting yourself. So I see that there's a double-edged sword. And, you know, Kiara probably feels that if she abandons him, he will probably go further into drugs. So, I understand both sides. Now, I told y'all I thought Chinese Kitty should kind of stay out of it, but I thought it was good for her to be there considering how she's been through a very similar situation. Now, Chinese Kitty is saying that Kiara should leave Gunplay because she was in a similar situation where she basically ended up stripping to support a dude who was on drugs. And I'm like, doesn't her mom own some strip clubs? Was she dancing at her mama's strip club? I don't know. That's weird. But we have seen Chinese Kitty and Chinese Nikki in some weird situations, you know, before. So, you know, that's just me speculating. But moving on, that was the end of that. So next we see Gunplay with Rick Ross and Sam Sneak in Atlanta, and he's playing some music for them. Now Gunplay tells Rick and Sam, you know, big revelation, Gunplay has relapsed and is back on drugs. And, you know, we weren't surprised. You know, Kiara found, you know, was a drug sniffing dog and sniffed out that he was on drugs, and he was, you know, tweaking the last time we saw him on camera. So he finally admitted it, which, you know, was the first step. But Sam said what we were all thinking. So you just beat a life sentence and now you're gonna ruin your life with drugs. If he gets caught with the drugs, he's definitely going to jail. If he gets involved in some like violent or dangerous behavior while he's on the drugs, he's definitely going back to jail. It's just bad all the way around. And so Rick Ross is, you know, trying to be supportive to Gunplay and saying, hey, you have all of these people and all of these things that are relying on you. Your family loves you. It's time for you to be a leader and stop falling into the same BS. And I'm like, tell him, Rick Ross, tell him. Now, next, let's talk about JoJo. Okay, so JoJo is upset because she is currently stuck in the middle between her mother and father, which is a place that no child who equally loves their parents wants to be in. So apparently she has been subpoenaed to go to court to testify, to show the court that her father is capable of paying a settlement that her mother is asking for. And so they're requesting the like bank statements and financial documents for JoJo's store, which we all know is being financially supported or financially backed by her father. Now, JoJo says that her father owns countless properties that her mother can use, to verify that he has the money or, the securities to pay for a settlement. But she feels like her mother is using her kind of as a pawn against her father. And it's interesting how JoJo's mother tried to make it seem like it was her lawyer that, sent the papers over. And while that's technically true, your lawyer can't do anything without your okay. So you okayed it for your lawyer to subpoena her to go to court to testify against her own dad. So in a way, we already knew that JoJo's father had like manipulative and like snakish kind of ways, but her mom kind of does too. Trying to throw off the responsibility on her lawyer, whatever. Moving on, we all know that JoJo has apprehensions about testifying against her father because it might mean that he will pull his financial support from her store. Now, here's the problem I have. She got into a fight with Veronica last week and saying, I'm a millionaire. Now, if you're a millionaire, why do you need your father's help in running this store? So that's problematic. But moving on, JoJo felt like her mom had turned her back on her. I don't necessarily feel that way. I just think that her mom is really desperate and in a desperate situation. I do feel like it's wrong to have, their children stuck in the middle of a nasty divorce, though. Now, next we see JoJo and her papa, and we see how manipulative he is, saying that I want to leave all of my businesses to you. Forget your brother because he betrayed me. Your brother is trying to testify against me, and that's the worst mistake he ever made in his life. Okay, basically he disowned her brother for trying to get her mother some money. Because she wouldn't be able to support herself without this settlement. And so basically right now her father is doing everything that he can do to try to sway his daughter to testify in his favor. So I find that that's very nasty. And that, JoJo really is torn, and I feel like her feelings are really hurt. And I feel really bad for her. Nobody should ever have to choose between their parents. But basically, the only thing that her father said that I agree with is that JoJo can be there for her mother, but not to the point where her mother is using JoJo to screw him over. That's the only thing he said that I agree with. But lastly, we see JoJo walking into the courthouse, and I feel like she didn't know what she was going to do until she got on that stand to testify. I feel like that's what it seems like to me, up until the point that she was about to testify and got sworn in, she didn't know which way she was going to go. If it were me, I would just plead the fifth the whole time, but hopefully everything works out for their family and whatnot. Let's talk about Veronica, aka Forrest Gump on a bicycle. So, y'all, Veronica was trying to make me like her at the beginning of this episode. She, organized some type of bicycle marathon ride type of thingy from Miami to Atlanta. It looked like it was only a handful of people, maybe 10 people that she was, personally responsible for getting this getting through this journey. She says she had made the ride by herself before, but you know, they had to rely on each other and use teamwork and encourage each other to finish. And I thought that was really cool. I think she said it was 714 miles. 714 miles. Athletic people just trip me out. I've never been athletic in my life. There's probably no way that I would be able to finish that bike ride. That's crazy. But moving on, even Polo the Don was there. We all know that he's like a super producer. And all of this was basically kind of for her own personal growth. I thought that was super cool. And I thought it was like a really interesting thing to do. So, you know, somebody, you know, had early signs of heat stroke. They had troubles with their bicycles. And it was a really cathartic experience for her. I need to learn how to ride a bike. I remember kind of learning as a kid, but these days, like when I try to ride a bike, I just can't. I'm just too nervous. I can't keep my balance. So, you know, for my own health's sake, I do need to find some type of physical outlet. But moving on, I realized that when Veronica is not wearing makeup, she looks just like young Hollywood. And I'm going to show y'all a picture that I put together. I don't know if these are the best pictures to show y'all what I'm talking about, but y'all see here, that is Veronica with no makeup and young Hollywood. I feel like they look pretty similar right there. But moving on, we see Veronica talking to Stef, and Stef is just congratulating her and giving her all the kudos in the world for completing this bike ride. And Veronica is just like, you know, the whole experience gave me an epiphany. I've never been responsible for a group of people before, and I've realized, you know, things about myself, and I treat people the way they treat me and all that kind of stuff. And she says that she doesn't even know if she wants to do music anymore. Interestingly enough, I can't speak for her talent or anything like that. I don't really know. Haven't really listened to her music, but she was saying that she wanted to do music to change people's lives, but she felt like she needed to grow first, and that was like the most impactful thing that she's probably ever said in her life, including in her music. Because here's the deal. I feel like there are too many people out here in the world trying to help others, trying to change the world when they don't have the appropriate personal growth to do so. And that's why I never have and probably never will create advice segments on my YouTube channel. My YouTube channel is very small. I'm very close to reaching 275 subscribers, which I'm very proud of. Thank you for everyone who's been subscribing. But my deal is, I know that as a person who's only 27 years old, there's only a few things that I could give people advice on that I would consider myself and having advanced knowledge or being an expert on. I was a dispatcher for 4 years, so if people had questions about being a police dispatcher, I can answer those questions. I made a video on, you know, going back to school as an adult and how I made it through that situation. I could help other people make it through that situation, because in addition to going back to school as an adult, I actually graduated. But there are people out here who are making videos on going back to school as an adult that haven't finished school yet. And I find that weird. I don't think that they're doing anything wrong or deceitful, but I feel like some things come better from people who are experts in a certain area. And for me, I don't necessarily like when other YouTubers who are just regular people are trying to give advice to people or tell people to like mail in or email them, you know, questions about their lives, or tell them situations or whatever, so that they can get their advice. To me, it's like, if the person's not a relationship expert, you're just getting an opinion from a regular person, a person who you might admire, but also a person who might give you the wrong advice for what's going on in your situation. So, I felt like I understood what she was saying, and I hope you guys understand what I'm saying when I say, you know, I'll never create like an advice column on my YouTube channel, because there aren't very many things that I can give people advice on that I have like a whole bunch of experience with. And that's just something that I have never liked about, you know, certain, not necessarily certain YouTubers, because I feel like YouTubers can do whatever they want with their channels. I just find it odd that people seek advice from like regular people who may not have a degree in psychology, or might not be a relationship expert, or who basically you're just getting a person's opinion. You would probably get a similar advice from just asking a stranger off the street. And you probably get better advice by talking to somebody that you actually trust about your situation. It's just, I'm getting way off topic here, but I 100% agree with Veronica that people need to worry about their personal growth before they can change the world. Because a lot of times there are people who are ill-equipped to deal with their own issues that try to help other people. And instead of coming away from the experience having helped the other person, they sink into something worse than where they started. It's like the blind leading the blind. But moving on, Stef feels like Veronica is so enlightened now from this bicycle ride that she and Amara can make up. And let me tell y'all, it's not true. Now, even though I'm not a big fan of Veronica, it doesn't mean that I don't want her to grow as a person. And moving on, Veronica, Stef, and Amara meet up outside of a networking event. And right off the bat, Veronica feels ambushed. And I'm under the impression that because Stef didn't tell Veronica that Amara was going to be there, Stef also didn't tell the other person. Like, Stef didn't tell Veronica or Amara that the other person was going to be there. And so, you know, Veronica brings up the issue with JoJo, and you can already tell from Amara's attitude that she's kind of not here for it. And I realize that a lot of people don't like saying negative things towards Amara because she's like such a positive role model to young Afro-Latinas. But I typically don't say anything negative about Amara because a lot of people have faced backlash about it. Well, for the most part, I feel like Amara is okay, but she's not always right. And I feel like she was wrong in this situation for being too hyped up. That she could have had a more calmer disposition when it came to this situation. But basically, Amara was like, I don't mess with Veronica because Veronica is fake. And, you know, Veronica is calling Amara fake. And then young Hollywood shows up. And then Veronica was over it. Now, Veronica feels like Amara is fake for making up with young Hollywood, but Veronica missed it when they made up. So here's the problem that I have with Veronica's viewpoint on the situation. First off, Veronica was the person who basically exchanged a date with young Hollywood so that he could apologize to Amara. Now, it didn't work out, but eventually Amara and young Hollywood made up. So why is Veronica mad that they made up when she had the intentions of them making up in the first place? So that's why I don't really get why Veronica is all upset or whatever about that in particular. Now, next they almost come to blows or whatever. Veronica claims that Amara's hair is a Party City wig. And then Amara makes a really good point in her confessional when she says, you know, Veronica is not a natural blonde. So does changing your hair or wearing a wig or wearing extensions mean that you're fake? I mean, that's kind of a debate that people have always had. Not so much anymore because wigs and weaves or whatever are very commonplace. But back in the day when they weren't, people felt like you were putting on or being fake whenever you wore a wig. I don't know. But I feel like it would be weird if Amara's hair was fake, though. That would be a little weird considering how that's like a big part of her image. But fake, not necessary. I don't know how to feel about that. But moving on, I didn't like that young Hollywood was talking about Amara to Veronica in this scene, where he was like, oh, you know how Amara is, she's just here to make a scene. And in his confessional, he was saying Amara should have just talked to Veronica at a different time, which I agree with. But something was very snakish about the way that young Hollywood was talking to Veronica about Amara, you know, basically right in front of her, saying that Amara was just doing this to make a scene. And I didn't like that. But all in all, like I said, I feel like Amara's attitude was very negative, and too hyped up. And Veronica just fed off of that and gave her back that same energy. And so here's the problem that I have with Veronica, is that she, as much as everyone would like to see her, you know, grow personally, I feel like that bike ride, you know, cathartic moment thing was some BS. Essentially because she pretty much is blaming her bad behavior on the behavior of other people. Like, you cannot base what you do off of what other people do. If somebody comes to you hyped up, you can give them back that same energy, but you are allowing what they do to determine what you do. A part of growing and, you know, becoming better is about keeping your cool and doing what you are going to do based on your beliefs and your integrity, despite what somebody else does. So even if Amara was hyped up, the grown up thing to do would have been to keep her calm and basically not fight with Amara, but to calm down and basically say that I'm here to try to make amends. But instead she brought up some old stuff and they were too hyped or whatever. So moving on, I'm still not necessarily here for Veronica, but Amara was not right either. Now next, let's talk about Shea. No, let's talk about Katrina Taylor, aka Trina, and Joy. I'm very pleasantly surprised to see that the city of Miami is honoring Trina for her charity work, which is something that I had never heard of, but I feel like it was a great cause. And I'm like, you know, go ahead, Trina, do something wonderful for your city and the young ladies of Miami. And so Joy, you know, in the car ride home, makes the moment about her, and she's like, oh, I'm happy for you, but I finally talked to Trick. And it seems like he is, you know, turning over a new leaf. But I personally, Kiara, I think that Trick Daddy is pretending to be, you know, divorcing amicably to dangle a carrot in front of Joy to make her think that she's going to finally get her freedom. That's just my personal thoughts. But she invites Trina on a double date with Trina's longtime friend whose name is Raymond. And I'm like, finally, Trina might have a storyline. Trina finding love or finding a new boo could be an interesting storyline if, you know, Trina would let it. So we see them on this double date, and the first thing I see after Joy sits down is Pleasure P come in to be Joy's date. And I was like, oh no. Nope, y'all. This episode, more than any episode prior, has really made me severely dislike Pleasure P. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. But Joy opens her mouth and says that, hey, I saw Shea talking to Scrappy, when it's clear that Joy does not know the timeline of things that are going on. So apparently Pleasure P is like, oh, I need to investigate that. Why? Y'all broke up. Okay, y'all broke up because you were talking to an ex, and you had the nerve to get upset that she was talking to an ex. And she only talked to her ex, you know, as far as we know, and as far as Bucky tells us, she only talked to her ex after the whole situation with you and Gabby. So don't even go there, Pleasure P. I don't like you. See, this is the stuff that makes me not like him, whatever. So anyways, Trina doesn't like Pleasure P for Joy because everybody knows the P in Pleasure P stands for player. But Pleasure P makes it clear that he's not looking for a relationship. He's just looking to have fun, which is the same thing that Trina thinks Joy should be doing now that she's about to get her freedom papers. But I like Ray. I think he's a little cute, and he seems nice. And you know, friends sometimes can make the best lovers. So I think that they should explore it, which is super interesting and super cool. So next we'll talk about Shea Bucky Johnson, and Baby Blu is there at a photo shoot with her, and we're like, hey, what's going on? So I personally think that Baby Blu has been waiting to shoot his shot at Shea ever since they made up. He really thinks that she's attractive or whatever. Now Shea is trying to make some money for her, trying to make some money moves, I should say, for her, you know, fit body boot camp, which I think is a great way to channel all of that negative energy that she has, you know, the energy that she musters up to fight other women with regards to guys that don't care about her anymore. But moving on, Shea was saying that she didn't know that Blue got involved in marketing, and he said, yeah, he had to do something after Pretty Ricky broke up. And I'm just so happy to see that he wasn't out here starving, because we all wonder what happens to people who fade into obscurity after their little bouts with fame go away. And so I'm happy to see that he has made, you know, a lot of money being some type of marketing person or whatever. And so she asked him to help her out with marketing her boot camp. So Blue is made aware that Shea and Pleasure P broke up, and he wastes no time being very forward towards Shea. And Shea is like, never, not gonna happen. She put him in the homie box, okay? But which is funny to me. People usually say friend zone, but homie box is cute. Anyways, the only problem I have with this situation, I feel like it would be weird of Shea to try to date Baby Blu, but I think that Baby Blu is the type of guy who Shea should probably go after, as opposed to the Scrappies and Pleasure P's of the world, because he just told you that he made millions of dollars marketing, so you know he has money, and also he probably treats you a whole lot better than the Scrappies and Pleasure P's of the world. But she's just such a bird, she don't realize that there are good dudes out there that probably would treat her right. But next we see Blue and Shea, you know, talking over some of the things involving the marketing for her fitness boot camp, whatever. And Pleasure P walks in hours ahead of schedule, and they get caught with their panties down. Not per se, but y'all know what I'm talking about. So an argument ensues. Pleasure P has his nerve bringing up the whole Scrappy situation. And here's the problem that I have with it. Pleasure P brought up the Scrappy situation and didn't even allow Shea to explain himself. Not that she owes him an explanation, but while she was trying to explain herself, he wasn't trying to hear it. But why do you care about her talking to her ex when she is your ex? If y'all are really over and done with, anything that happened in the relationship should just be out of your mind. You guys already broke up, so it's not like you can hold something over her head for her talking to an ex while you were talking to your ex. So don't even go there. That's why I don't mess with Pleasure P. I don't like him. Now, he mentions that Joy is the person who told him about her being in Scrappy's vicinity, and now Joy has a problem. Because Shea has a radar out for women named Joy. And the same thing goes for Shea Bucky Johnson, okay? Shea, if you and Pleasure P have broken up, why do you care that Joy went and reported that you were hanging out with Scrappy to Pleasure P? It doesn't matter. It does not matter anymore. So I don't know why she would feel like Joy has a problem now. But moving on, Pleasure calls Blue thirsty, and Blue doesn't like that. And Pleasure P feels betrayed by his brother. And I think that, you know, Pleasure P was being a little bitch and had his little feelings hurt because he was doing business with his ex-girlfriend. He was like, you know, I don't have to call you and ask you for permission to make some money. And he's like, well, you could have just given me a courtesy call. Shut up, Pleasure P. And here's the problem that I have. Another problem that I have with Pleasure P is that I feel like he's just trying to be mean to Shea now. And it's not that Shea even really did anything wrong to him. She did get, you know, a little hype and get into a fight with Gabby, but that was because of him. I feel like he's just being mean to Shea now, to the point where he's even taking it out on Blue. So, you know, forget Pleasure P. I really don't like him. I feel like this show is not doing him any favors. Yo, did I talk about everything? Yeah, I did. That's it, y'all. This video was a lot longer than I wanted it to be, but I got off track a little bit. But hopefully you guys enjoyed this review. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this braid out, because I'm going to go wash it out soon. But thank you guys for watching. I want to let you all know that I will be out of town this upcoming week. I haven't really talked about it that much, but right now I am in the middle of doing interviews for grad schools, and the grad schools that I have chosen are kind of all over the country. So I have 2 interviews that are coming up in the next couple of days. One of them is in Seattle, Washington, and the other one is in Austin, Texas. So I will be traveling quite a bit over the next week. So the hopefully I can work out a way to do my reviews on time for next week's episodes of Real Housewives and Love and Hip Hop. But if not, that's why. Thank you guys again for watching, and don't forget, it is almost the end. Well, we have about 8 days left to the end of this month when we finally review our book of the month for February, which is Invisible Man by Ralph Ellison. So if you are interested, you still have a little bit of time to get the book from your local library and read it with us, so that we can have a discussion on my channel on the last day of the month. So thank you guys for watching, and peace out, home slices.